Hello, good morning everybody. Different topic today, not Tommy Robinson. And it's Elizabeth Warren and her insanity of actually having the nerve to say that she's taken a DNA test and that because 1024th part of her blood might be from somewhere in the vicinity of the entire continent of North and South America, she can claim some kind of indigenous identity. Now listen, it says right there in my Twitter bio that I am an indigenous rights activist, and this is actually true. This is one of the ways in which I talk about my Jewish Israeli identity, is that Jews are indigenous to Israel. And this has direct relevance to what Elizabeth Warren said. Because to claim that you have some Cherokee history and Cherokee blood is only in the way that I talk about this, which I learned from my friend Ryan Bellerose, who is a Métis, which is a tribe from what is part of Canada today. And he describes indigenous identity as a hand. He always sticks up his hand and he says that there are 5 components to it. Land, language, culture, blood, one of them, and spirituality. And you are not indigenous without some interwoven aspects of those. Just one is very unlikely to give you a chance to say, you're an indigenous person to a certain place. Now, indigeneity is always tied to a place. That's the first one, land. There must be some land that means something to you and your people and your customs and your traditions. It might be where your ancestors are buried. This is often a very important part. And by the way, these criteria are actually laid out in sort of documents. There's a UN one called the Martinez-Cobes criteria. This is kind of smart people have thought about this. So these 5 components, land, you've got to have a land that you hold and that means something to you. I don't think Elizabeth Warren really knows where that is. Language is really important. When indigenous peoples lose their language, say they're invaded and conquered and their language goes away, the language is often tied to the land, and the customs and the traditions of the indigenous peoples are interwoven into their language. Not Iceland. The Faroe Islands, for example? Unique language, even though they've been conquered and ruled by Denmark for years. They're trying to revive their ancient language. Same with us, the Jews. Our ancient language of Hebrew, which is a Semitic language and has roots here. But that language is deeply tied to how we express our spirituality. It contains words that match the land and the events and the culture here. So land, language, culture. In Jewish terms, that's enormous. We have you can be a Jew culturally anywhere in the world, and we see this. But when you come back to Israel, suddenly so many aspects of our culture take on a massively increased importance. Again, Elizabeth Warren, in what way does she culturally express her indigenous blood heritage? And then blood. Now, Judaism is largely passed on from mothers to their children. Okay, that's how we determine Jewishness. You have to have a Jewish mother. But there are avenues into Judaism through Orthodox conversion, for example, such as Donald Trump's daughter is an Orthodox Jewish convert. She converted and married her Jewish husband. She is a Jew. She can claim to come back to Israel and live a Jewish life here, because whilst blood is very important to us, it is not the be-all and end-all of Jewishness. The only people who think that way are the out-and-out, far-right, extreme white supremacists and Nazis who think that one one drop of Jewish blood makes you a Jew, or one drop of black blood makes you a black person. It's only racists think that way. No, Judaism is a race, but it's more than a race. So if you convert in an Orthodox conversion to Judaism, if the tribe, this is another very important component that Elizabeth Warren completely fails on, Indigenous people nearly always retain the right to decide who should be in their tribe. For Jews, we have a system. I mean, it's imperfect. There's a fight between Orthodox rabbis and less Orthodox rabbis and the state of Israel. But there is a system, and it is for Jews to decide who is a Jew, not for white supremacists or Nazis or 23andMe. That's not how you decide who is a Jew. And it's the same with Elizabeth Warren deciding she's Cherokee. No, if the Cherokee Nation says she is not Cherokee, she ain't Cherokee. Didn't even matter, and if she got back this DNA test that said she was 50% Cherokee, if she'd never done anything in her life to express a Cherokee identity, if she didn't know where the land was, if she didn't know the language, if she didn't raise her kids to express their Cherokee identity, is she Cherokee? Of course not. And that's what the Cherokee tribe is saying when they say she's not one of us. She shows no sign of being one of us. It's exactly what we Jews do here in Israel. It's a little different because we have this huge diaspora and we do recognize a blood lineage, and if people have married in a Jewish fashion, the rules are complicated, but we decide them. Jews decide them. Nobody else gets to say who is a Jew and who isn't. We can argue politically back and forwards here in Israel. We will do that. But Jews decide. Same with Cherokee, same with all the other Native American or First Nations peoples. They get to decide who's in their tribe. A blood test doesn't cut it. And a blood test which shows that Elizabeth Warren has potentially half the amount of blood that any random white person in America would have of Cherokee. It's like she's the most white. I don't do identity politics. I don't do racist identity politics like the far left. I don't think in those terms, which is why I take a much more rounded view of what it means to be an indigenous person, especially with the kind of indigeneity that I express and have expressed by moving back to Israel, by the fact that when I go to Hebron, where my forefathers are buried, Abraham, where Sarah, the matriarchs and patriarchs of the Jewish faith, they're buried there, and Joseph is in Shechem or Nablus, that's a 40-minute drive from me. That feels important to me, makes a difference to me, because that is my Jewish indigenous identity. And all of the cultures and the traditions and the things that I do, it doesn't matter where I was born, it doesn't matter where my genes have been for the last 1,000 years. The culture, the last one, did I say? Spirituality, the thumb of indigenous identity. So land, language, culture, blood, spirituality. Jews, we have such an enormous and rich spirituality. It forms the basis of Western civilization today. And that Western civilization sprung from ideas, some Greek, some Roman, some others, but fused together in the Hebrew Bible, taken into the Christian scriptures, spread out around the world to create one of the most vibrant civilizations that human beings on this planet have ever developed, the most technologically advanced, the one that has raised the more people out of a depressing, poverty-ridden life than any other civilization ever. Is it collapsing right now because our temperament has gone? Because we've forgotten our religion? Maybe. Can we turn it around? Yeah, maybe. But Western civilization is built from here, from Jerusalem, where Jewish identity springs from this whole land, Judea, Samaria, the hills, and the 5 components of indigenous identity, which Elizabeth Warren spits on when she proudly holds up a silly piece of paper from a silly DNA test that means absolutely nothing. She knows nothing of land, language, culture, and her spirituality as a Cherokee person. She has one stupid bit of paper that says she's got a tiny drop of infinitesimal blood. DNA tests are not Indigenous identity. And Elizabeth Warren has offended and made a mockery of real Indigenous peoples everywhere. This is Brian of London. I'm here in Israel, being an Indigenous person, expressing my Indigenous identity every single day just by waking up in the morning and doing Jewish stuff and following a Jewish calendar. Nice to speak to you all, and see you the next time.